Hi, everyone. Again, I would like to continue the story together. Last time, I talked about that if God is an amusement park, and at the time when we talk about that, we saying that if Disney, the founder, who's standing at the exit and waiting to people for the come out, and of course, we would see that he would be very happy if the people enjoy the park, all the service, everything that he designed in such a way that to make the people happy. But of course, not all the customers is the same. They may come out and disappointed. All right. Maybe for example, they were waiting at the ride for an hour and turn out to be the ride is broken. Okay, so there's a lot of miscommunication going on, and some people not happy. And so now I would like to continue this journey because it takes us a while to come to this point to explain how we can handle the unexpected. All right, so you would expect that the amusement park should be fun all the time, but so happens sometimes it's not. Is it something wrong with the park, or something wrong with us, or something wrong with something else? And let's see, whether the Bible will give us some insight how we deal with that situation. So let's continue to use this analogy to cover the situation that if the things doesn't go the way we expect. All right. So the thing about it this way is that in the park, obviously has a management. They communicate with each other to make sure that the park can provide the best service and option to the customer, the visitors. Yeah. So thing about it is that the park has a theme. All right. It has the guidebook. And also, each of the rides has the specific design, how the ride will provide the most enjoyment or excitement to their visitors. And also, if you are aware that the park also have a lot of the loudspeaker for the announcement. Usually, they have just playing music, but in some cases, that if some mechanical failure or the change of schedule, weather condition, some special show and events that they will announce it through the broadcasting system. But if we not totally ignore all this, and I just don't care, whatever the announcement, the guidebook, or whatever, just I want to just do the way I want. Okay, obviously, the park will allow you to explore the park, right? So now that is where the problem comes, is that if you ignore the announcement, then with some ride, the mechanical failure that will no longer working, then if you don't know, you were waiting at the line for the ride for an hour or more, and then at the end you complain, "Ooh, why nobody told me?" All right, but he already told you, but you just ignore the message. Well, then it would be bad. All right, and definitely the park or maybe I would say the Disney, okay, himself really don't want you to stay in there for an hour for nothing. And he definitely wants to help you to enjoy the park the most. But if you ignore the message, then then we can't help. Well, so that's why if we really want to enjoy the park, I think we need to okay. Now, of course, the best you work with the tourist guide and make sure that your radio is working so that you always have a communication with the tourist guide so that you will hear the message loud and clear. All right. So but we have been ignoring that message for a long time. So that's why we not get used to the voice of God. So then we can't really get the help we need. All right. So now actually it took me a while to prepare this message because it was really hard to just explain why my life is so miserable and why we kept ourselves at home for 14 days for the quarantine and all that. But now I think with all this explanation, now we can come to understand one story in the Bible that very similar to this situation, okay? And see how the people react to it, all right? So now the main message today, we are using Genesis chapter 6, verse 7, all right? Right here. So that, well, now, let me read this to you and see whether you get the most important word, okay, in this passage. All right. Maybe the first part will make you angry, but it's not the point. The point is what is the key word, okay? Really important word, okay, in this passage. Read it carefully, all right? So the Lord said, I will write from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals and the birds and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regretted that I have made them, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. So what is the most important word in this passage? Was that because, wow, the Lord said, right? Oh, wow, he even feel regretted. He make us kind of interesting, okay? But I think that's not important. The most important word is but. Is but. Many people take the God's word for granted. Oh, wait a minute, wow, come on, you're a God, right? You say something and come on. You say that you're going to write, everyone from the earth, right? You're so authoritative and then you want to kill everyone. Well, you're a God, you can do anything you want, no one can complain. But did he really write the whole human race on earth completely? Well, obviously he said that, right? And if he really, the true God, well, he say what he did. Oh man, I mean, he said what he will do. Well, then he should write up everyone. Then we will not be here to reading this Bible. It was because the but. That means he didn't do what he said. Ooh, interesting. How God would not delight himself? What does that mean? Well, when God mentioned about making a certain statement, you need to read it very carefully. That what does he really mean when he says such a thing? And when he say, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord, meaning is that he didn't do it. He kept one guy's life, okay, at least. That means he didn't do what he said. So now, I don't want to get too deep into this argument, but let's move on because there's some very interesting fact about Noah, all right? I hope that this will help us to all understand this story, and hopefully this will enlighten us that who God is and how we deal with the situation that is not really favorable for the human life, right? I mean, right now is the virus running all around. So but there's a couple places in the Bible, so I just highlight this so for sake of easy to understand. So let's take a look at the chapter 5, all right? Before you understand chapter 6, and also this message also covers chapter 7. So I just have this already for you. So here on chapter 5, essentially is a genealogy and tell about, who is the father of whom, and then how long they live, and things like that. And Noah's father's, the name is Lyman. And he lived 180 years before he had a son. He named him Noah, right? Noah is, wow, at that time, most of the people almost have 1,000 years old, okay? So, wow, that's good for them. And Noah, they have him at 180 years old when his father have him. And he also said that he would comfort this son, okay? Noah will comfort us in the labor and painful toil of our hands caused by the ground the Lord has cursed. Wow, interesting. Before the flood comes in, this guy already know that the Lord already cursed the land. And after Noah was born, Lamech lived 595 years and then have another son and daughters. That's interesting. He lived quite a long life, remember the years, okay, when he had Noah, okay, 182, and then after Noah was born, he lived another 500 years, all right? Now think about it, and remember this number. This number is important. So look at, after Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, be really extremely careful is that he is quite old, become a father of another three. Oh, you may wonder, okay, is it because he is special? Now, if you're looking at the chapter 5 more carefully, most of the people at this generation almost is around 180 or 100 some before they become a father. And Noah, wow, he take 500 years become a father. I don't know, maybe he take a long time to find his wife. Obviously not what he is doing in that 500 years. He is building an ark. He is really busy to build the ark for several hundred years. All right. Well, he probably don't need that much time. The one but in order to get into this, then I have to go to the other part of the Bible. But he obviously working really hard, all right, because he need to build the ark, and his most important task is to build the ark before he has his own family. Now, it's one more interesting thing. Okay, let's take a look at when the flood come. All right. Now, chapter 6. This is what just read, right? And Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. It was because the Lord asked him to build the ark, so that's why he's spending a few hundred years to build the ark before he has his own family. Okay, one thing for sure, all right, Noah was a righteous man. Wow, righteous man. Who can qualify to call himself as a righteous man? Well, it is the Lord said that he is the righteous man. Wow, no doubt about it. Blameless among the people of his time. And he walked faithfully with God. Now, this guy obviously have the radio tuned absolutely correctly. He got the message from God now and clear. He know that whatever God announced, hey, this is the ride have a mechanical failure. Don't go there. Go to the left. And also the change of the schedule, the weather. Oh, God will tell you, hey, tomorrow go to rain. Why don't you just put all this wood or the things that in the shelter so that avoid the rain? Well, he just do it, right? It is not God asked him to be a laborer. He is helping Noah to do his job. He will be very happy. If I were him, I would be very happy because I don't need to worry too much about how I'm going to do my job, right? So now let's take a look at the chapter 7 and something interesting. All right. Noah did all the Lord command him. Oh, okay. So of course, if you have such a good radios, right, the perfect communication, every announcement that God give you and you follow, that's perfect. And he was 600 years old when the flood waters came on earth. 600 years. Well, in that sense is how old will be his sons? Wow, 100 years old. And in fact, actually, his son and the son's wife, number 7, okay, maybe I highlight it also. You obviously see that his son already have a wife already. Wow, such a wonderful family. Well, the thing about it is that what does the Lord really need 500 years to build the ark? Probably not. And also, his son is already 100 years old. Those sons should be able to help him to build the ark also. And one more interesting fact is about his father. The flood come at 600 years old. And Lyman lived 595 years. So what that means is the flood come after his father died 5 years later. Do you think this is a perfect plan? Absolutely perfect plan for Lyman, Noah's family. And also Lyman, the grandfather of the Noah's kids, been living together, well, for at least 100 years. He died comfortably without seeing the flood and died peacefully. And also Lyman is very clear that he have his radio working because he know exactly the ground has cursed. The Lord has cursed. Now, this is the perfect example of living in the garden with the radio working, and you follow whatever message that the radio come about, so that you know exactly when and how, and you will for sure the Lord will take care of you when you leaving the park. I'm pretty sure that when Lyman meeting the Lord, when he died at 777 years old, when he come to see the Lord, Lyman will be extremely happy. Well, at least, I don't need to see the flood myself. And he also know that his son, Laurel, and his grandson is take a good care of him. That 500 years is actually just not the time to build the ark. Building the park, building the ark probably take you maybe 100 years, What does Noah do in that 400 years? Per se. He is preaching the message to the rest of the other people because none of these people believe him to get on the ark to avoid the flood. Now, when the Lord saying that he wants to wipe out every man, remember this. He is a but here. Remember this but. This but means the exit. In our own word, this but is, we call it salvation. Well, you can't complain God to have such a calamity because, the flood comes in. Why are you killing all these people? But remember, there's a but. The but means he gives us the exit. Well, if you follow, well, then you will be safe. But if you don't follow, you won't be safe. Well, that's fair, right? So if you don't pay attention to what the message from the radio, well, then bad luck. And then when you come to God, and the God will tell you that, why don't you tune into this channel now? I already told you that there's something's wrong. Don't wait over there. Go the other way so that you can find the exit. Because right now, we're already so far away from the radio, we don't quite understand how God talked to us. And this is exactly what I'm doing now, like Laurel, well, teaching everyone how to receive the message from the radio. Of course, this is our job to, reveal his message to everyone and make sure that the message is loud and clear, all right? So I hope that it takes little while to explain, remember, when you exit the park, are you carrying a smile or weeping or crying and unhappy and sad? So remember, this park is designed by God, and he put the man he formed into the park, but make sure that you still have the radio working so that he will guide you through the happy time or unhappy time. But overall, what the message from the Bible tells us is that it's supposed to be the most enjoyable life after all. I hope that we have this message staying in our heart and find who God is. Okay, see you next time. Thank you. Bye.